All right, let's continue our discussion of the digestive system with the accessory organs. Our three accessory organs are the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. Shown here is the pancreas, then we have the liver, which is superficial or superior, and then directly inferior to the liver we have the gallbladder. All of these organs will drain their secretions into the first part of the small intestine known as the duodenum or duodenum, depending on what coast you're from. So first, let's talk about the pancreas. Our pancreas is kind of fish-shaped, spongy. I like to describe the pancreas as resembling spoiled cottage cheese, particularly when you look at it within a cadaver. And our pancreas has multiple functions. Number one, it secretes pancreatic juice. And if we look at this pancreatic juice, it's a cocktail. It's a mixture of many different enzymes, or compounds, I should say. The enzymes are going to help to digest our proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, and carbohydrates. And there's also some compounds or substances that make the small intestine have a basic pH. Three specific enzymes secreted within our pancreatic juice include trypsin, lipase, and pancreatic amylase. Trypsin is used to digest proteins within the small intestine. Lipase digests lipids or digest fats within the small intestine. And then pancreatic amylase is going to digest carbohydrates. Pancreatic amylase can be contrasted with salivary amylase in that they both digest complex carbohydrates, but one is in the saliva and one is in the pancreatic juice. One of the basic compounds secreted in the pancreatic juice is bicarbonate ions. And these bicarbonate ions neutralize stomach acids and give the small intestine a basic or alkaline pH. And then finally, the pancreas can secrete insulin and glucagon into the bloodstream to help regulate blood sugar levels. Insulin in particular lowers blood sugar levels, whereas glucagon will raise the blood sugar. Most individuals that suffer from diabetes have too high of blood sugar, so they need to inject themselves with insulin to lower their blood sugar. The liver and gallbladder are really two peas in the pod when it comes to the digestive functions. Our liver is one of the largest organs in the body, second only to the skin, and it's going to be directly underneath the diaphragm and have many repeating subunits or lobules that repeat over and over again. Our liver has multiple functions. From a digestive perspective, it is going to remove poisons from the blood and detoxify the bloodstream. The blood that is leaving the small intestine is immediately sent to the liver before it goes back to the heart, and that's so that we can detoxify that blood. Our liver is also going to help us recycle and process vitamins within our body, and our liver is also going to store extra blood sugar as a complex carbohydrate known as glycogen. And then when we need to raise our blood sugars, our liver can break down the glycogen and turn it back into glucose and dump it back into our bloodstream. Something significant that our liver does for us is that it is going to make bile. And that bile that's made in the liver will then be stored in the gallbladder. And once it's in the gallbladder, it can be concentrated and then secreted into the small intestine to help us emulsify and process lipids or fats. Our liver is also going to make plasma proteins. These are proteins that go into the bloodstream or blood plasma. And our liver is also going to help us regulate our blood cholesterol levels. And then finally, our liver aids with the breakdown of hemoglobin. So our liver has its fingers in many different body systems. It's a jack of all trades organ, so to speak. Since our liver does so many different things, it's very easy for our liver to become damaged or diseased. Some specific liver disorders include hepatitis, or inflammation of the liver. And if this happens, that liver is going to potentially shut down. There can be liver damage that will result in cancer of the liver and or death of the patient. And there are three primary kinds of hepatitis: hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. All of these kinds of hepatitis are very dangerous to contract. If the liver tissue itself is starting to scar and break down, that is known as cirrhosis, and the liver will be encapsulated with fatty tissues and scar tissues. Cirrhosis of the liver, generally speaking, is a disease that's going to be associated with alcoholics or individuals that are grossly obese. The cirrhosis of the liver can lead to liver failure and eventually will result in the liver not being able to regenerate as fast as it needs to be able to counteract the damage that's occurring. The liver is unique in that it's one of the few organs that can regenerate itself if it is in if it's not being continually damaged. In these situations, if there's cirrhosis of the liver, the amount of damage is out, or the liver is receiving more damage than it can repair. There are also going to be some hormones that help to regulate our digestive functions. These hormones are going to be secreted by different organs of the gastrointestinal tract. First, let's talk about gastrin. Gastrin is a hormone that's specifically produced by our stomachs, and it's going to be stimulated in high quantities if we eat a protein-rich meal. This gastrin is going to enter the bloodstream, and then from the bloodstream, go back to the stomach and stimulate the stomach to make even more secretions. It seems kind of redundant that a hormone made in the stomach will leave the stomach just to come back to the stomach, but that, if we spend some more time talking about the nuances of this hormone, that could eventually make sense. Take human physiology if you want to learn those nuances, or shoot me an email. The reason protein-rich meals stimulate gastrin secretions is because those protein-rich meals need to be primarily digested in the stomach. Our stomach, more than any other organ of the GI tract, digests proteins. So we're going to have lots of gastric juices secreted in our stomach if we have lots of protein that needs to be digested in our stomach. A secretion made by the duodenum is secretin, and as its name implies, secretin is going to cause other organs to make secretions. Particularly, secretin will go to the pancreas and cause the pancreas to release basic compounds into the pancreatic juice. Why would we want to have basic compounds added to the pancreatic juice? We would want a basic compound added if there was an acid that needed to be neutralized. So the thing that stimulates the production of secretin is hydrochloric acid or stomach acid. So when there's lots of stomach acid entering the small intestine, secretin is a hormone that the small intestine produces in order to stimulate alkaline or basic compounds that can neutralize the stomach acid. And then finally, we also have cholecytokinin. Cholecytokinin, or CCK, is going to also be produced by the duodenum. Unlike secretin, cholecytokinin is going to be stimulated by amino acids and fat content. Cholecytokinin is going to go to the pancreas, and it's going to cause the pancreas to release digestive enzymes into the pancreatic juice, but not the alkaline compounds. Cholecytokinin, or CCK, also stimulates the liver to produce more bile and the gallbladder to contract and release the bile that's being contracted, or concentrated within the gallbladder. And not on the slide, but worth mentioning, is that cholecytokinin and CCK also reduces the amount of peristalsis in the stomach, so that the food can remain in the stomach for a longer period of time. So, you may notice on this figure that's been corrected from the one in your textbook. In your textbook, there was an extra green arrow going up to the gallbladder and liver, suggesting that secretin had a function in the gallbladder and liver. That was a mistake in your textbook. I fixed it for this figure. There is no longer that green arrow, but we can see that in the stomach, that gastrin is made in the stomach, goes to the bloodstream, and then goes back to the stomach, whereas in the duodenum will produce both secretin and CCK. The CCK and secretin both act on the pancreas, and only the CCK acts on the liver and gallbladder. So, class concept check. Which of the following hormones affects 3 different organs? Gastrin, secretin, or CCK? You can go ahead and rewind the video, or you can check your notes or your textbook to get me an answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The correct answer is CCK. Cholecytokinin affects both the gallbladder, the liver, and the pancreas. And, as I mentioned verbally on this slide, cholecytokinin also is going to reduce contractions within the stomach. Moving on, we have the lower digestive tract, or the large intestine. This large intestine is going to be made up of some primary structures known as the cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. The primary purpose of our large intestine is to reabsorb liquid from the chyme that was secreted into the small intestine. Our small intestine is much shorter than the small intestine, but has a much larger diameter. At the very beginning of the large intestine, there's a pocket known as the cecum, and attached to the cecum, there's a little tube that leads to nowhere, known as the appendix. And the appendix has been found to have a lot of secondary lymphatic tissue. Our appendix is much like the tonsils in that the appendix helps us fight infections, but the appendix is not necessary or essential for us to fight infections. Let's skip ahead a little bit here. So here's the end of the small intestine. Here's the beginning of the large intestine, that cecum I had just mentioned. And then hanging down from the cecum, we have the appendix, sometimes referred to as the vermiform appendix. If we look at the large intestine, its main goal is to absorb water. We want to reclaim as much water as possible from our feces. Our large intestine, though, is also going to help us with absorption of the vitamins, particularly vitamins B and vitamin K are going to be produced by the bacteria in the large intestine. And then finally, we're going to take the chyme from the small intestine and turn it into feces, and then take that feces, build it up in the rectum, and then expel the feces through the anus. So chyme from the small intestine enters the large intestine, and then that chyme goes up through the ascending colon, across the transverse, down through the descending, and with a wobbles through the sigmoid colon. And then by the time it gets down here, it's feces, and it compacts in the rectum. And as the rectum stretches out, that can trigger the defecation reflex, and we will expel the feces through the anal canal. There are some disorders associated with this large intestine, the most notable of which is diarrhea. Diarrhea is when we have not enough water reabsorbed from the feces. And that can that can happen because we have increased peristalsis, so we move the food or the chyme too quickly through the large intestine, or the large intestine can have a chemical that makes it so that it can no longer reabsorb the water. Many times, for example, if you drink a highly salty solution, let's say, for example, what's it called? Come to me. Epsom salts, magnesium heptasulfate, or Epsom salts. If you drink an Epsom salt solution, that can initiate diarrhea. Other things that can initiate diarrhea also include drinking mineral oil. But if you're constipated, you'll want to drink mineral oil. You'll want to drink that Epsom salt solution to help loosen up the stool, because you have absorbed too much water from the feces, and the feces become very hard, and it's very difficult to push it out of this large intestine. Individuals that will occasionally have large, painful blood vessels form near the anal opening. Right down there, you can see in blue some blood vessels right at the anal opening. And if those blood vessels swell, they are going to be referred to as a hemorrhoid. Hemorrhoids can be induced due to chronic constipation, pregnancy, or if someone has repeated anal intercourse. That repeated anal intercourse can damage the lining of the anus and initiate that painful condition of having hemorrhoids. And then finally, another condition or disorder of the colon is diverticulosis. Diverticulosis is when the mucosa of the colon has a weak spot and swells out into the abdominal cavity. This diverticulosis typically is going to occur in the descending colon, and you can picture it as a big bulge in the descending colon, where the wall of the descending colon is very weak and feces builds up and is not expelled. Instead, that feces will fester for long periods of time. Other disorders include irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease or colitis. Irritable bowel syndrome happens when the muscularis layer, the muscular layer of the GI tract, is going to contract with lots of force, but there's not the normal coordination or peristalsis, so there'll be sudden and inexplicable diarrhea and abdominal pain for the patient that has irritable bowel syndrome. It's very unpleasant. If somebody has inflammatory bowel syndrome, they have a disorder that's going to cause their bowels or their colon to have inflammation within the mucosal lining. This inflammation within the mucosal lining is going to cause there to be extra fluids expelled into the digestive, into the colon, and also will minimize nutrient and water reabsorption. Examples of inflammatory bowel disease include ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. And then finally, we have polyps and or cancers. A small growth is going to be called a polyp, but those polyps are typically going to all be precancerous. Polyps can turn into colon cancers that will be in the mucosal or epithelial lining of the large intestines. So, class concept check: which of the following is not a contributing factor to hemorrhoid development in a patient? Aging, pregnancy, chronic constipation, anal intercourse, or none of the above. If we go back here, we can check for hemorrhoids and see that they are caused by chronic constipation, pregnancy, aging, or anal intercourse. So the correct answer is none of the above. And we will pick up with our next section or next recording on nutrition and weight control to finish up Chapter 9. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to post them on the class discussion board, shoot me an email, or swing by my office when you're on campus. Happy studies!